So look what I found. My very last ScrawlrBox that I ever got, but I never did a video on it. Why don't we do it now? So hello guys, we have not done a ScrawlrBox video in a long time because I haven't really continued my subscription with them. However, I found the very last box that I received. Really speaking, I can't actually remember what's in here, so let's actually see. Okay, so just to be clear, I did open this like back when I first got it, but this is kind of like the first time that I've actually seen these supplies in a long time. So this is what ScrawlrBox used to look like. I'm considering getting another subscription to ScrawlrBox. If that's something you'd be interested in, I don't know, but this was how it used to look like. I forgot to turn on my microphone during this entire clip, didn't I? And I was recording this while recovering from a cold, where I lost my voice. Not a good idea! But apparently, this is when inspiration decides to hit in the most inconvenient of moments. So we have these Aquified gouache paints. We have ivory black, portrait pink, cobalt blue hue, cadmium yellow deep alizarin crimson hue, and also we have titanium white. So we have the primary colours and we have a skin colour, which I'm wondering what the theme could be. We have a comb eraser, and we also have a Lyra 3B pencil. Oh, I love these brushes! Oh my god. I was using one of these the other day. It was either from a previous ScrawlrBox or the fact that I've brought a Van Gogh set in the past, and this is a Van Gogh foldable brush. I love these brushes. It's a size 6 brush. Oh, and then we have some paper, and this is the artist. Okay, this paper feels thinner than what I'm used to, but okay. And this artist is known as Rizo-chan, or Rizo-chan. I think it's Rizo-chan more so. But yeah. Oh, I love the colours. Colour is one thing that always stands out to me. It looks so good. So the paper is Bockingford cold press watercolour paper, and it is 220 GSM. So decent weight, definitely thinner than what I'm used to. I'm used to 300 GSM personally. It should work well with gouache. And the theme, I don't know whether you can see that, is face of emotion. I definitely think I've eaten the sweet before anything else. So yeah, let's see what we can do with the theme of face of emotion. There's no good transition for this, but I get a feel for the supplies and test them out first before diving in head first and doing an illustration. What are transitions? Because past Zoe just didn't think about them. Why do I make things 10 times harder than they need to be for myself? That is the ultimate question. The Lyra 3B pencil. The eraser's actually pretty good. It's a lot better than I was expecting. Now let's get on to the main event and let's test out the Aquified gouache. So I have a jar of water ready to test these out. The one thing I will say about the brush is that with my previous brush, it was really loose around here and kept coming undone, especially while I was painting. So I might have to put like a little piece of tape around the inside of here, just so it grips a little bit better. But we'll see how this brush gets on. So I'm using a little bit extra than I normally would in my sketchbook, mainly because I kind of want to have a go at mixing the colours at the same time. Not like white is going to show up on this white paper. Oh my god. Ah! And this is what I mean about the brush. Now I have to try and fish this out of this very cloudy water. Okay, so I had this problem with my previous brush, so what I'm going to do is, because I already have a version of this brush with the sellotape already placed around this end of the paintbrush, don't get me wrong, amazing brush. It's just I wish that it stuck in there because it would just keep falling out into my paint water. Portrait pink. Now we have the cadmium yellow deep hue, the alizarin crimson. Oh god. We're going to try some colour mixing on this sheet so we can see what colours we can mix. Obviously the primary colours, we can get secondary colours out of these. Please enjoy my not so perfect colour chart. I can never make a perfect colour chart. I just want colour charts that look like in liquid colours colour charts, because they look absolutely beautiful, perfect, symmetry, everything. But I know it's never going to happen. When mixing, I was actually surprised the colours didn't muddy as quick as I thought they would. Using Daler Rowney in the past, it's always been hit or miss, but this actually was really good. I think my favourite colours were the periwinkle blue colour, the light pink, and mixing the black with cobalt. It just, it looks so good. It had this shadow violet kind of vibe. Now this is a bit of footage of me planning out what I'm going to draw. At first, I had no idea what I wanted to do. Face of Emotion could be taken so many different ways. I also just feel really rusty of doing artwork in general, just for myself. Because when I'm doing artwork currently, it's always for something. Even this piece of artwork technically is for a video, but I kind of wanted to loosen up a little bit and just create something and go back to basics. So when trying to decide what to do for Face of Emotion, I even looked through my old sketchbooks where, if any of you have watched any of my old sketchbook tours, you might remember doodles based on the fact that I have been taking antidepressants since the beginning of 2020. But instead, I decided to go with this 50-50 approach on the face. So on the side of the face that you can see the most of is just happy, cheery, and then the side that's kind of off to the side and more private is more subdued. It's more depressed. It's basically my depression in a nutshell. But since I feel really rusty with my artwork, especially when using gouache, I wanted something easy and simple to do. Something where I wouldn't worry too much about the final outcome, because I am a perfectionist, I worry about every little detail, and I overthink everything. Now watching back the footage, I realise I made a mistake while in the sketching phase, which actually carried through to the final piece. The mistake being that I actually sketched the face direction a little bit too far over, so the other side of the face is barely visible. But I think this worked to the advantage of it, because it shows that that side of the face, the more depressed side, is more hidden. It's more private. It's stuff that people don't really see very much of. So I suppose you could call it a happy accident within the artwork. It actually makes it mean a lot more. Also, I wanted the halfway line down the face to actually be a little bit more subtle. Kind of like with the Toon Me challenge, how the line can either be as sharp or as subtle as you like it to be. I wanted it to follow the contours of the face, so I actually followed the line of the nose down to the chin. This piece of artwork wasn't really meant to be a self-insert piece, but it just ended up that way. As for sketching with the Lyra pencil, I don't know what it was, but something was making the texture of sketching a little bit awkward for me. Whether it's my rustiness, or whether it's the paper texture, or whether it was the pencil itself, I don't know what it was, but it just kind of felt a little bit uncomfortable in a way. It wasn't too unbearable, but it was definitely noticeable. Maybe I'm being a bit too nitpicky, but that's just me. Now playing around with the gouache, it laid down beautifully. I love the way it looked. It almost had this effect of watercolour. I know Aquified is Daler Rowney's brand of watercolour normally, so I had really high hopes for this, and they did not disappoint. Also, for what I expected of Daler Rowney paints, they were a lot more vibrant and beautiful than I was expecting, or at least than I remember. It did help that I knew how to really use gouache now, because when I first started using gouache, I used it in really thick layers and just didn't really care about watering it down all that much, because in university, I was kind of told that that was the right way of using it. But when I got my jelly gouache, a lot of people were watering it down and actually building it up in layers, and even though it would take a lot longer, it just had so much more of a better result. So I definitely think when using gouache that layers are the way to go. It's like with watercolour really. I also discovered my process for using gouache is mixing as I go along, and even mixing on the paper itself. I love showing the transition of colour, and a lot of people in my past and present even say to this day that I have this way with colour that's just different from other artists. But even saying all of this, I feel a little bit of an imposter. I have chronic imposter syndrome. I feel like I'm undeserving of all the compliments I get. And even though I know that in my mind that all of this old artwork on my channel is mine, it just doesn't feel like me anymore, or it's like it doesn't belong to me anymore, even though I know I've done it in the past. And something that my therapist said last year, as well as my mentor this year, has said to me, I need to do more self-care. And it's the whole reason why I'm not doing Inktober or Catober this year, because I want to try and focus on getting back into a good mental state, giving myself a mental break. Because I'm very hard on myself. I'm incredibly self-critical, and I always put others above myself. So I just need to start caring for myself a little bit better. I know that some of my audience have probably already heard me say something similar to this. Hopefully, if I keep saying it, it will one day become a reality. Because a lot of the times I fall into this cycle of constantly doing work and not even taking a break for myself, which essentially feels like I've forgotten my own advice. But life gets in the way. This gouache also came in handy when actually doing one of my commissions. I was commissioned by my grandmother to make a bigger version of Fall Festival, the last piece of Catober 2020, the art challenge that I did last year. The original white ink that I used to create all of those lovely cloudy effects had actually gone quite stagnant. Basically, it had thickened up so much that I was thinning it down with water, and the water inside of the ink actually stagnated and it stank. So I had to get rid of it. So I was down some opaque white ink. So instead, I decided to use the gouache from this set, and it worked out really well. And I know we're coming into the final couple of months before Christmas, so if you're interested in any commissions from me for Christmas gifts or birthday gifts or anything, I'll leave a link to my commissions down below in the description. If you don't want a traditional commission, I also do digital commissions as well. I also have some signed art books and signed prints on my Etsy as well. So if you would like to check out my Etsy, I will leave links to that down below in the description. Any support is greatly appreciated. The only thing to really mention about this piece of artwork in the video now is that I started hating it. It was only until the next day I actually started liking it. At the end of the piece, I decided to neaten it up a little bit with some of my own pens. Now I know they're not part of the ScrawlrBox challenge, but I wanted a more precise line and just to line work it because I love my line work. I really thought it added something to this picture. I think the main reason why I started hating it is because I had no idea what to do for the background, and you'll see that I just mix all of the colours together essentially until I end up with black in the background. And I'm like, okay, I can't really go any further than this, so we're gonna have to stop here. But sometimes just stepping away from a piece of artwork that you've looked at for a long time can actually give you a different perspective of it. And that's what happened the next day with this piece. But I really hope you enjoyed this video and like this piece of artwork. If you want to see more of my content, consider subscribing with post notifications on for notifications for every time I upload. But until next time, bye guys!